Hello and welcome to another episode of the ADHD Goals podcast. I am really excited about today's guest. His name is Arias Websterberry, and he is an unstoppable force in the world of entrepreneurship, digital marketing, and tech innovation. He is the founder and CEO of Websterberry Marketing, Ignite Funnels, and launch Ignition AI, which is a cutting-edge AI platform that helps entrepreneurs and businesses automate and accelerate their growth. So for those of you that are listening, a lot of people with ADHD tend to find it difficult to fit into those boxes that regular jobs provide for us, and we turn to entrepreneurship and solopreneurship. But with that comes a very overwhelming onslaught of everyday tasks and marketing and everything that comes with it, and it quickly becomes very overwhelming. So I think today's episode will be fantastic for those of you who are in that situation or even thinking about starting their own business. So how are you doing today, Arias?
I'm doing amazing. Laurence, how about yourself?
Oh, really good. Yeah, I've had a good day today, and I'm really excited to jump into some of the topics with you today. How's your new year started?
Actually, it's been amazing. It's really been amazing. It is getting off with a bang. We just received a notification that we were nominated for an award. One of the top are the best PR and marketing firms in Dallas, Texas. Also just got a call from a very prestigious publication that they are looking to list my book as one of their top 100 for the year, and they want to send us on a book tour and a whole bunch of stuff. So we're a little over a week in, and we're getting off with some amazing news.
Well, that is pretty cool. You mentioned the book there, and that is, I'm assuming, is that the content canon?
It is.
Absolutely fantastic. Well, I mean, there's a lot to get into there. I mean, I'm hoping that we might be able to discuss some of the topics that you've got in the book, the content canon there. But first of all, before we do dive into any of those topics, could you let the listeners know a little bit about your background and how you arrived at where you are today?
Yeah. So I'm originally from Dallas. I was born here, so I'm a proud Texan, the great country of Texas, as they say. And when I was maybe 12 or so, we moved to California, San Diego specifically. So I got a chance to get the beach life, the coastal life, Southern California, where it never rains. And, I always tell people that I get my values and my heart from Texas, and I get my, business acumen and my hustle from California.
Yeah,
So,
that's a good mix. So what parts of the lifestyle from California did you take? I mean, California always makes me think of surfing. Do you surf?
actually, I do. I do. Most of the people that live in California do not surf or skateboard. Yeah, yeah. It's a very small part of the population that actually surfs. You'd be surprised. A lot of people that live in California do not go to the beach very often. Some have never been to the beach. You
They're
would think
probably
because they're down the street.
too busy developing digital products, probably.
Right, right. We would hope. And if they are, they should definitely give me a call.
So what in terms of like your journey to becoming, an entrepreneur and an expert in digital marketing, tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I started marketing informally through promotions. So when I was in high school and college, I started throwing parties. They kind of got popular. So then I started charging for them. And that caught the attention of a local record label owner. He
Mhm.
also had a promotions company where he promoted nightlife events and stuff like that. He introduced me to some people in LA and, kind of the radio stations and some other record labels. That allowed me to start to do a little bit of marketing that turned into me doing promotions and marketing for small concerts and eventually festivals. largest event being at the Los Angeles Sports Arena that can hold around 17,000 people. I was the executive producer for the Hip Hop 101 Music and Arts Festival. We had Janelle Monáe and Common and Ludacris and Mixed Master Mike from the Beastie Boys. It was a huge event, and that's truly where I got my first taste of holistic marketing,
Right.
allowing me to negotiate contracts for billboards and TV spots and radio spots and running multiple street teams that were putting up posters and passing out flyers all over greater Los Angeles and, social media campaigns and graphic designers and videographers, just the whole nine, really, really
Yeah.
digging into it. And I fell in love with it. And, shortly after that, the economy crashed here in the States and I moved back to Dallas and went to work for the largest digital marketing firm in the world at the time, which was Reach Local. And that's where I got my formal training
Mm.
in digital marketing. I learned Google AdWords. I learned kind of the sales side of things, how to set up campaigns, how to deal with clients and customers and, kind of the maintenance side of things. And then I ventured off on my own and started my own agency.
So how long ago was that when you started your own agency?
Oh, it's been about 8 years now. Yeah, it's been
Wow.
about 8 years. Mhm.
And with some of the people that you've helped, I mean, do you come across many entrepreneurs or solopreneurs that have ADHD?
Yeah, I believe that I definitely have a form or two, but I think that a lot of times many entrepreneurs go into entrepreneurship because they don't necessarily fit in a cubicle. A lot of times I find myself, it's hard for me to sit at my desk for, really long periods of time through, 10, 12 meetings, even though I do it regularly now. Especially when I was younger, it was way harder for me to just, do the monotonous work that a particular role in a cubicle in any corporation in America requires. So me going into entrepreneurship allowed me some variance. It allowed me to create. It allowed me to kind of indulge some of my random thoughts and creative spurts.
Mm.
And I see that a lot in the entrepreneurs that I deal with, both on both sides of my business, whether it's Launch Ignition or on the agency side, they're always coming to me with a new idea or they've got something new that they want to start. And I'm like, but you haven't finished the thing that we just started last week. So yeah, I come across a lot of people who exhibit the symptoms. And a lot of times my goal is trying to get them to stay on track.
Yeah. I mean, I personally suffer with that a lot. I have so many ideas, and then you start one, and then it snowballs into another thing, and then that you hit a brick wall, or something doesn't quite work, and then it's like, oh, jump over here to this next one and start that. I mean, if I was to have a look through all the domain names that I've purchased, you tend to find that the next year you go, oh, really? A whole bunch of charges come through, and you go, oh, right, yeah, I bought those. Maybe I should cancel those.
Right.
So I'm eager to jump into some of the practical tips that you might be able to share with us. So I wonder if you can talk about maybe some practical routines to boost productivity for or frameworks for entrepreneurs that you help some of your clients with.
Yeah, I mean, we have quite a few. One of the biggest things that, again, with someone who has always got a new idea and gets excited really quickly about things, a lot of the times I have to discipline myself and I have to tell myself no, focus on this. And one of the big things that I do is time blocking. And people have heard of it before, but I do believe that most people don't really implement it or they don't stick to it. One of the things that I personally do in my agency, right, with my time is I only do meetings and podcasts like this on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So today's Thursday, which is why we're doing a podcast.
Yeah.
The only times that I meet with people that are not inside of my company, right? And even with people inside of my company, my employees, I try to get all of those on Thursdays as well. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or the majority of the week, I'm actually have deep or large swaths of time to actually work.
Mhm.
And that's been having a profound impact on my business because part of entrepreneurship is you kind of wear every hat. And
Yeah.
when you do that, you can easily have a project or a deliverable interrupted by a call or a meeting or something like that. And it's like you want to get into something and finish it. Oh, I have that meeting, right? If you can kind of shrink the amount of time that people have to distract you, then you can typically get a lot more done.
Mm. 'Cause I think it's quite easily said, I do time blocking, but I think it might be worth digging into it quite specifically what it is because, you know, I've had the situation even in my previous career, or, when I was working inside a company, I would find it very frustrating where, I was working on a big project and I needed, lots of time to, work through some heavy sort of design work or something like that. But then you're interrupted by somebody else needing a meeting for, to get their things done. And it
Mhm.
really cuts you off. And essentially what you're saying is, I assume what you're saying is, plan out what you need to do, organize the week in the way that is most productive for you, and then sort of allow everybody else to fit into that. So maybe just like describe a little bit about maybe how tasks maybe come in and how you decide what then goes into your calendar, like a bit more in detail of how you do time blocking.
Absolutely. So, I mean, the first thing is we know that meetings are going to be a part of the week. So, me signifying that, hey, these are the only 2 days that you have to book me is big. So, not everybody has a whole team of people that are, look at their schedule and, do various things. But with my team, I've told them, hey, if someone needs to meet with me, obviously kind of screen because I don't need to meet with everyone. But if it's an existing client or it's something that we're already involved in, or maybe it's a prospective client, or not even prospective client, but anyone that needs to physically meet me or virtually meet me, find the time in my schedule on Tuesdays or Thursdays. And if we can't get it, well, then the next Tuesday or Thursday, or the next Tuesday or Thursday, right? So currently my calendar is booked out for the next 2.5 months,
Mm.
right, of Tuesdays and Thursdays because I've made sure that we do those things. And then on the other days, I kind of set themes for the day. So Monday is where we get into, we call it the double M. So it's money and marketing, right? Those are the two things that I focus on and talk about on Mondays. So I meet with the accountant, I talk to my sales guys, and I'm one of the sales guys. So we dig deep into, how much money we've made. And then I also meet with my marketing team. So anyone in our PR division, anyone that is creating social media, our ad buyers, all that kind of stuff. I meet with them on Mondays and I've made it clear that they need to come to me with a plan and some results. So, what did you get done last week? And then what do you get planning on getting done in the next week? On Wednesdays, I usually dig very deep into like deep work. So from all the meetings from Tuesday and all the stuff from money to marketing and stuff, whatever I actually need to do, I kind of just set that whole day to really dig in and try to knock out as many things as possible. And then Friday is just a cleanup day, right? Whatever I was able to get done throughout the week, I do my best to try to finish and clean up and get done and actually check it off of the list. So that's usually how my week goes. And then Saturdays, that's another free day. So I typically do a half day. I do half the day working, really moving through stuff. And then the rest of the day is kind of for friends and family and kind of relax. It doesn't always happen that way, but that's the plan. And Sundays, I don't do anything. I don't take any calls. I don't do any meetings. I don't do anything like that. Sunday is truly my day of rest.
Yeah. Well, there's a few things in there that I quite like that you mentioned. Obviously, the first thing that popped out to me was the themes, because it sounds like you're able to, what you're doing by doing the time blocking and creating themes for each day is you're dictating like a pattern so that each week, obviously you'll have different clients or different things that come up, but they'll be, because they're in themes, there's a bit of a rhythm to the week. And, one thing that people with ADHD struggle with is maintaining a regular routine. But what
Mhm.
you're doing with the time blocking is you're building that routine in, so it becomes easier to maintain. And one of the things I quite liked about your Friday was it was a bit more time to reflect and sort of tie loose ends, and maybe prepare for the next week so that can start, flying.
Yeah, indeed. Actually, so I'll give another little secret of not everybody, again, not everyone has a team, but even when I was by myself, I did this. So every morning I have a stand up with my team.
Mhm.
So we do an hour and we split them into 4 blocks, and I kind of just go through everybody, different departments in my team, and we use Scrum. So what did you get done yesterday? What are you going to get done today? Is there anything keeping you from getting your work done?
Mhm.
Awesome. So we just go through the line. Every single person reports. And then, so that's start of day. And then at the end of the day, EOD, I get my whole team together and we do the same thing, right? What did you
Yeah.
get done? What are you going to get done? Is there anything that's keeping you from, being able to do it? And I make them share the screen and they show me the work. And then we just go through that cycle basically every single day. On Fridays, part of that cleanup is we kind of take stock of what was done throughout the week, and I make them set their tasks for the next week. So they have to go ahead and list all of their tasks, list all of the work that they're going to do for the next week so that I know coming into Monday, their docket or their workload is already set. So we don't have to spend Monday trying to get ready. We're already ready.
Mm. Yeah. Well, I'm liking what you're saying about the start of day and end of day. And I'm thinking about what can quite happen a lot with people with ADHD is that, there's RSD, which is rejection sensitive dysphoria, and in the workplace that can sometimes mean that they got negative labels about how much they can achieve or why they don't seem to be as organized as other people. And therefore, if a problem arises, sometimes they don't necessarily flag that up because they're thinking, oh, I'm stupid for not being able to finish this, or how you hit a brick
Mm.
wall with this. Whereas it feels like you're giving an opportunity for people to flag things up pretty early so that you can problem solve with them and just sort of get it out of the way, and not let that issue build up beyond 1 or 2 days, and really
Mhm.
help them through that. So I really like the sound of that. But, do you find that it reduces a lot of stress within your team?
It reduces stress for me. Well, I
Mhm.
mean, I mean, there's always stress. The clients are, they're clients. I guess you'd have to talk to my team to see if it helps them. For the most part, I think that it does because I think a lot of times what I've seen is when things go untended to and expectations are at one place and productivity is at another,
Mhm.
and then you go say a whole week and then you get to the end of the week and that's when you realize that there's a discrepancy between what you expected and what was actually produced. There's though that's the time for those explosive moments, right? Where people are extremely upset, they get emotional because you haven't checked in enough. I
Mhm.
have a mentor and he always tells me don't expect what you're not willing to inspect.
Mhm.
And that's even with myself, right? I expect to be able to do so many things, but am I actually inspecting the rate at which I'm producing things? Am I inspecting the quality of the things that I'm producing? And am I doing so consistently and frequently? If I'm not doing those things, well, it's kind of silly for me to expect all of these things because I'm
Mhm.
not really keeping track of them and I'm not being honest with myself about what my actual capacity is. Capacity quantitatively and qualitatively. And in my various businesses and in various departments and teams, I'm always checking, right? And I try to put in systems so that even if I can't get my personal time to look at it, if I have a spare 5 or 10 minutes, or if I'm on a plane or I'm in a car, I can just open an application and I can see where my team is on various things. And if I can't see it, well, that means they're doing something wrong. And then that's when I'm upset because I've given you the system, I've given you the tools, I've set the expectations, and you're not giving me the ability to have transparency into where you are. Well, then you're not doing what you said you would do, and that's what actually upsets me. You having an issue or not understanding something, or maybe you don't have the tools or the training, those are all things that can be solved. But you have all those things and you're not doing it, well, then you have to the course of action.
Mhm. Um, there was one I was thinking about, and this is looping back a little bit to when you were just talking about the time blocking and the meetings, and you said that you've got people working for you, so that organization of meetings and that communication with people is dealt with. But for somebody who's working on their own, like a game changer for me this year was getting a CRM that allowed me to quickly put out like a calendar invite so that you can sort of set that up to only invite on the days like you've got on Tuesday and Thursdays. That's a really great way to reduce that, or what is like the meeting tennis of people saying, "Oh, you free this day or you free that time," and then
Mhm.
the times that you can waste so much time
Going back and forth.
forth on pointless emails.
Yeah, we do the same. So my team is aware, and then we also have our calendars. So allowing people to schedule.
Mm.
And you can only pick these 2 days. You can
Yeah.
only pick Tuesday, or you can only pick Thursday, and it also references all of my calendars across all of my companies to ensure that there are no conflicts because there's a lot of draws on my time. So if you're looking at something and, I don't know, step away, go check your calendar and come back. If you were looking at that 1 o'clock spot and someone else books it, well, that's going to evaporate off
Mhm.
of the calendar. That's no longer an option. So I make it so that one, I can't be double booked. Two, there's a limited amount of time where you can book. And then I also have the human element to where my team goes in and they check to make sure they don't double book me.
Mm. You you were talking about, obviously, with those start of day and end of day check-ins, and the fact that you've got a lot of people working with you. For me, that shows like the difference between, a lot of people start their own business because they can't work in their in a job for somebody else. But for me, an entrepreneur or starting a business is slightly different to some people creating themselves their own job. For an entrepreneur, you have to be able to take yourself out of the business and it still runs. And in order to be able to do that, you've got to be able to, as you said, like put some systems into place. And that helps
Mhm.
with the delegation of tasks. You can't really delegate a task unless you've thought about what that task is and what your expectations are of it. And I wonder if you could talk through maybe sort of how some tips for how somebody might start looking at their business and how to systemize it like that.
Sure. Kind of the things that we were just talking about. A lot of times people believe that they'll start doing those things when they have a team, or they believe that if I only had a team, I'd be so much more productive. In my experience, in my own business, I've had teams and I've lost them. I've had businesses and I've lost them. You having a team doesn't ensure success. You knowing what to do with a team does. So before I had a team, I had start of day and end of day meetings with myself. I started my day and I set my intention and what I thought I would reasonably be able to get done within a day. And then at the end of the day, I would say, okay, what did you get done? Oh crap, you only got two out of these three things or five things that you thought you were going to get done. Okay, you need to be more realistic tomorrow, right? And instead of just using pen and paper, I used a project management system before I had a team, right? I used it and I would put all of my tasks in there and then I would check things off and leave notes for who myself, right? I would take screenshots and I would attach things. And what that did is it taught me to be organized. It taught me to use a system. It taught me to get into a routine. It taught me to learn how to better judge the amount of time it would take for me to do things. Also, it allowed me to have kind of a history that I could then give a team access to. So think about you working for a year by yourself because you just started your business or you're a solopreneur and you're entering in all of these notes and all of these documents and all of these files, and then you get your first employee. Well, if you add them to your project management system and you give them access, well, now they've got a whole, history of everything you've done. They've got access to all of these links. They can see, notes on past projects, and you can reference those things. But if you are trying to learn a new system while also trying to onboard an employee and teach them these things, you're trying to develop the system while you're trying to incorporate a new person, it just creates enormous amounts of chaos. So I often tell entrepreneurs and people that are self-employed to use a project management system and start, getting in the habit of using this thing so that you can then teach them the system that you've built once you bring somebody in.
Yeah, because I mean, time is the most precious commodity for an entrepreneur, and you can't. Well, I was going to say you can't replicate yourself, but if you if you can get down your thoughts and your processes, then you are effectively replicating yourself to onboard and train somebody rather than having to spend all that time each time. I wonder if there's a client that's coming to you and do you get many clients that are coming wanting to start a business, and do you have ways in which you sort of guide them through that process of starting and building a business?
Indeed. So something I started a couple years ago, AI, is specifically for that. So Ignition is all about creating clarity and structure. So you always know, what to focus on next. And it's perfect for entrepreneurs, for course creators, for coaches, consultants, and specifically those that are battling procrastination. I have a client that had an idea that she was working at for around 10 years. All right. She had this
Mhm.
idea to help students for 10 years. And she's built multiple sites. She has went to conferences. She's, bought all the courses and all those different things, but she wasn't able to truly get the business up and running. She came into Launch Ignition, and within maybe 6, 7 months, we were able to get her whole idea out of her head and into the market. And now she's in the middle of negotiating 2 6-figure contracts with some municipalities. And it's simply because she came into the Launch Ignition program and she trusted the process and she didn't deviate. She just, whatever we told her to do, she did. And it's had a crazy impact in her business.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I personally find that unless I get an idea out of my head and maybe, I mean, I like to use sort of, whiteboard tools for getting ideas down and I can move the idea around. So sometimes if you're writing something down, it feels as if it's too fixed and structured and you're scared to write something down and commit to it because you know you might need to change it slightly. But getting that act of getting an idea out of your head allows you to deal with it so that it's not bouncing around, because the more it bounces around, the more overwhelmed you get by it, or the more you can sort of bang into other ideas and then get distracted and shoot off. But it sounds really good that
Mhm.
you've got that roadmap that really helps say, no, don't focus on anything else. Just do this bit and then the next bit and then the next bit.
Indeed. And, it's structure that a lot of entrepreneurs need. And it's also coaching and accountability. And
Mm.
Launch Ignition, provides that. So we have weekly accountability calls where, again, just like when I run my teams, I say, hey, what'd you do in the last 7 days? What are you going to do in the next 7 days to move your business forward? And then we also do some teaching around various things that can help people in business.
I mean, accountability in the ADHD world is such a huge thing because it can be a lot easier to do something because it feels like you're doing it for somebody else once you have an accountability partner than it is if it's just you that knows you're doing it. you can quite easily go, well, maybe this is more important today and get distracted. But when you've got to report back to somebody and say, yeah, the feeling of saying, well, I didn't do that, it can be quite motivating to get it done. I wonder if the structure that you mentioned about with Ignite, could you mind shedding a little light on what that structure is from beginning to end?
Yeah, I mean, we have a 9-step framework. We start with first, who is your avatar, or who are you looking to talk to? If you don't know who your ideal customer is, well, then you definitely can't solve a problem for them. The second thing is, once you know who you're talking to, what are you saying? What we call our $1 million message. So, what is the specific verbiage that speaks to your target demographic that gets them their ears to perk up and lets them know that you understand their specific problems, where they are, and more importantly, you have a solution to help them get from point A to point B. Then we move into crafting an offer. So you know who you're talking to, you know what you're saying. Now we need to make sure that the thing that you are offering is holistic and truly solves the whole problem. So we come up with what we call an offer stack, and basically multiple things in a package that is pretty irresistible for them. And then putting a price to it and also figuring out what the actual value is as opposed to what you're actually charging. That's kind of the baseline in our first phase. Then we move into creating lead magnets that are designed to pull um, prospects to you in exchange for something for free. We move into authority amplifiers that help you establish yourself as the expert, showing that you truly have a firm grasp on the subject matter, and you are top of your field. Then we move into planning out your sales funnels, helping you plan out your sales funnels are automated marketing and sales machines designed to convert someone from kind of cold traffic, not knowing who you are or what you do, into an actual customer. And if it's a digital product, delivering that product to them and following up and all that stuff. Then we move into social media, where the content canon, which is actually what the book is based off. It's one section of Launch Ignition. And that's, how you can create a whole month's worth of content in one day using our framework and our system. And then we move into the traffic turnpike, which is planning out all of your ads so that you can drive traffic to the funnel that you built. And then we do a product launch. So those are the 9 steps.
That is very and it's good because I mean, you can't get away from the fact that these are a lot of the elements that need to happen for a business to be successful, and to have them put in a specific order and clearly defined. It does reduce a lot of that overwhelm or fear of not knowing what to do next, which can come with someone with ADHD trying to launch a business. I wonder if you could just explain, can this system be applied to any type of business, whether it be B2B or B2C? Can you maybe explain about how flexible that is?
Sure. It definitely can. B2B, B2C. We have a lot of coaches, consultants, and course creators simply because, a lot of people developed knowledge, or they've been in a field for a very long time. So they want to take that and turn it into a business or a service or a course. But we have definitely worked with B2B. So one of my clients is a laser cleaning business out of all things. So they use high power class 4 lasers to clean metal and hard surfaces like concrete and brick and, heavy machinery like tractors and conveyor belts and all this different stuff. So they came to us and they said, "Hey, we've got this technology, but most people don't really know much about it. They don't know it exists. They don't know that it can be used as opposed to some of the other alternatives." So we took them through the launch ignition process and said, "Hey, awesome. Let's deconstruct how you take somebody from point A. I have this rusty old conveyor belt that's, kind of breaking down, to point B. Hey, we've cleaned it, we've rejuvenated, it's, humming good as new." And the launch ignition process allowed them to kind of figure out all the things that they do. So, they meet with the client, they assess the project, they kind of come up with a plan and a communication plan to anybody who's going to be on site, and they do the scheduling and they set up a safety area to make sure that no one gets zapped with a laser. They clean the thing. I think put a new surface or coat on it and all that kind of stuff. But taking them through this process, they were able to kind of segment each one of the steps. And then we actually built out a graphic that they could then take to prospective customers. So it's like a little roadmap, like all little steps as to, hey, right now you and I are talking. We're having this initial meeting. That's step one, and then we're going to do this and this and this and this, and then at the end, your stuff's going to be good as new. And not only did it help them with the marketing side, it also helped them with training their actual team. So now that they had these things kind of segmented out, well, they were able to go in and create presentations around all of these different modules in the various steps of their process. So yeah, it again, for something like that, which I definitely know nothing about lasers. I didn't even know you could use lasers in that way.
Or maybe
Um,
lasers at the festivals, the music festivals behind the DJ box.
right. And now those but yeah, you pointing a laser at a tractor and cleaning it. I didn't even know that was a thing. But the system still helped them. The process still helped them get a lot of value and get a lot of customers.
Yeah. You've struck on something that resonates with me really. When you mentioned like you created a graphic that explained exactly what they do is because like a confused prospect doesn't convert. People
Mhm.
will really won't purchase something, particularly online, if they're not sure what it is. And if you're selling online, you need to be able to do a sales call that you might have done over the phone or in person, but you've got to provide all that information and clarity on the web page or in a video or whatever it is, and just make it very clear what it is that you're saying. So I think that's very useful, like to have that graphic made and just really explain what it is that the client does.
Indeed.
So I'm just aware now of the time we're coming towards the end of our time together. So if somebody's listening and they want to know more about how they might be able to work with you, what should they do?
You can find me on LinkedIn, Arias Websterberry. I don't know if you can see it in the screen. Arias Webster, like the dictionary, and then Berry. You can go to my website, ariaswebsterberry.com, or you can just Google me. I think I'm the only one on the planet. Find another one, let me know. But all my businesses, my books, courses, my agency, Launch Ignition, everything's on there.
Yeah. And just to talk about the launch ignition, so they might be able to sign up. And what would they get if they signed up for that?
Yeah, so with Logic Mission, you get the software. So at the center of this thing is a software that's powered by AI. Basically asks you a couple questions and takes you through the process of taking, just like that laser cleaning company, taking all of the various components and steps in your process and labeling them and making it easy to understand. It takes you through that process, and then it also helps to build some other materials that you can use to market and explain what it is that you do. So you get the software. You also get 5 sessions with me or someone on my team to go through this process and make sure that you are understanding everything and kind of help shortcut some of the pitfalls. And then you get access to our Launch Ignition group, where there's all kinds of entrepreneurs from all different parts of the world in different businesses, where you can kind of interact with them and see some of the things that they're doing and kind of get some group support. And then we also do a weekly call called Get Ish Done Weekly. We do that every Monday. And on that, we go over creation and mindset stuff, of what it takes to be an entrepreneur. And then we do some practical training on various things, whether it's, building a website or funnel, or setting up an email automation, or, how to create content or publish social media posts. The package.
Yeah, because they're just those last two things that you just mentioned. Those are things that as soon as you sort of start digging into how they do them, that can quickly sort of spiral into, okay, confusing thing to do. So to have that support network with the community there that you talked about, and those calls, that's really helpful to help people get over those roadblocks with those setup things.
Indeed, yeah. It's the tech wall is massive, and it has defeated many an entrepreneur.
Yeah. All right. Just this is completely sort of unrelated to that. What you were just saying before about being the only Arias Websterberry. I think that might be a Google whack. That was a term that a comedian came up with when he did like a book on it or something. But basically, if you Google your name and you're the only person, that's a Google whack.
A Google whack. I'm gonna have to look that up. Let me write that
Mm.
down.
Cool. Well, it's been a pleasure to chat with you, Arias. And I mean, I could talk for hours digging into your expertise. But thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been really great.
Hey, Lawrence, thanks for having me. It was a ball.
Cool. Okay. Take care. Well, there we have it. Thank you so much for listening this far. If you want to hear more episodes, then please subscribe on YouTube or whatever podcast platform you use. It really helps to spread the word. So if you know anyone this episode could help, then please share it with your friends. If you want to follow me on social media, I am on Instagram at ADHD_goals, and you can find me on Facebook too. If you want to get in touch with the show, then you can email me at hello@adhdgoals.co. And finally, if you're struggling to manage your ADHD and you would like me to be your coach, then please head over to my website and get in touch. Until next time, bye for now.